I must have been 4.5, something like that. And I just started at the local school, very young classes. And they held a concert. And like so many people that have gone into show business, I took part in this concert. And my memory of it was just that there was this darkness, there was this great warmth, there was a spotlight. I was in it, and it was a wonderful feeling. And I didn't know what that was all about. I just loved being there, loved being part of it. And that's how it began in my mind. And then I went on to do little bits and pieces within concerts at the church, the local church. But I was very nervous, terribly nervous. I could always stand up and recite. That was an easy thing. When it came to singing anything, I'd become terrified. And I would shake. I really would shake. So I wondered how I'd get round all that. And as time went on, that's where the impersonations got going from. You know, getting behind somebody else's character.
Do you remember your first professional engagement and what you actually did?
Oh, well, when I was just a little girl, there was a person in my hometown. Her name was Brown, too. No relation at all, but she ran a sweet shop, and I used to go along and help her in this sweet shop. And they ran a lot of talent contests in Glasgow, and she took me into one time because she was madly keen about the theatre, and she played the piano very well, and she used to get me to go up there, and we have a microphone, and I loved all this. I thought it was just great. So I went into Glasgow, and I took part in this talent competition, and I won. And I made up a little act. I guess, nobody gave you any material. I just made bits and pieces up, bits of Catherine Hepburn and Mae West and all this sort of thing. And then I went in for a bigger competition again at the cinema, and they stopped at the end of the film. On would come the talent show. And I got second prize, and I was thrilled because I got the £5. The others got the cup, but I had the money. I mean, my practical Scottish way of looking at life. I thought that was wonderful. And I tore home to my family, and I ran upstairs because I lived in a tenement building, and we were in the top flat. And I went in the house, and I threw all these notes up in the air. I was just so thrilled at earning this money. And my family were very good about it. Puzzled, couldn't understand why I was really on this tack because nobody was in the theatre.
It really is quite a unique skill, though, isn't it? To be able to mimic, to be able to impersonate, so that people actually do believe you are the person in question. I suppose later on, Mrs. Thatcher is the one that people will most recognise you for, though in many ways it's been a bit of a sort of millstone around your neck, perhaps.
She began to dominate things because of all the impersonations. At the time, when I was doing my own series, there were all these wonderful people to impersonate. Certainly, there was Nana Muscuri, there was Esther, there was Sue Ellen, masses of them. And they all had their own popularity. And then when Mrs. Thatcher became so famous, the very first time I ever did it was simply because Eamon Andrews' live television show was going out, and she had won the first ballot, and they wanted to do a quickie thing on it, and they asked me if I would come to London. I lived down in Sussex, and they said they'd send a car, which they did, and I knew that it would run terribly late. I would hardly make it in time for the programme at 6. However, I got there at 5 with a script promised for me, but when I ran in the door, they hadn't had time to do a script. So, there's always been this thing of just making up, doing lines quickly, anything. You fall into all of that with all the experience you have on things. And I just put some words together and went ahead and did it. And I had never done an impersonation of her, but I didn't know anybody else that did it. And I was really taken up with her on the screen because she absolutely fascinated me, both with the way she spoke, the way she looked, the way she talked from under the eyebrows with that terribly concentrated look. And when I caught that, it stayed in my head. Pictures stay in my head very strongly, very strongly. So all of that was in my mind as we were going up to London. And I did this thing, and I thought it was just going to be sort of one-off, and I was pretty terrified anyway about doing it. And then I heard the camera boys all start to laugh, and I thought, that's nice, that's very comforting. And when it was over, I thought, well, that's the end of that, and I left the studio. But the next day, the press had taken it up, and then it gradually snowballed, and there was a programme, Who Do You Do, with all the impersonators in it. And there was somebody had done all the Ted Heaths, had 16 lots of them. Well, of course, when she came up as a winner, that was out, and I was in. So for 16 weeks, I kept doing this Mrs. Thatcher thing. And although it has had it's had certain drawbacks in that it began to label you very much. But on the other hand, I have no regrets about any of that because I've had a wonderful time being her. And I've gone all over the world, which I wouldn't have done. and had terrific experiences.
Thanks again for watching. Don't forget there are many more videos on the channel. If you enjoy any of them, please click on the like button, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out in the future, and above all, if you can, please subscribe. Thank you.